Hey, Real Talk 447 listeners. We are obviously living in an unprecedented time with the COVID-19 outbreak. But it's been great to see all of you out doing some social distancing and getting out riding. So, if you're in the need for any parts, apparel, or accessories, make sure to check out Rocky Mountain ATV MC. With their huge selection of both aftermarket and OEM products stocked in two massive warehouses, Rocky Mountain ATV MC has the parts you need and can ship them to you fast. So head over to their site, RockyMountainATVMC.com, to see why they're the go-to source for dirt bike parts, apparel, and accessories.
Said if you can't win, wreck someone who can. And
Exactly.
I knew I wasn't winning that.
Why do people not get out of the fast lane?
Every time I see that picture of you riding around with that big ass fro you're wearing, I still get pissed.
It was that night I said preparate, but I didn't say what I wasn't supposed to say, and that's A1.
All right, everybody, welcome to Real Talk 447. I am Jeff Emig, coming to you from Corona, California. I have Ricky Carmichael with me from Tallahassee. How's it going, Ricky?
Good to see you, my man.
And as you can see, we have a special guest for the show this week. We have Dave Prater, who is the Senior Director of Two-Wheel Operations with Feld Entertainment, who, of course, owns Supercrosslive, Monster Energy Supercross. So welcome to the show, Dave.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
All right, so Feld put out a special announcement on the 25th of March. So anybody that hasn't heard that, I'm going to go through that for you now. The 2020 Monster Energy AMA Supercross and FIM World Championship is now scheduled to complete rounds 11 through 17 later this year. The race locations and dates have not been finalized. The following Supercross events have been canceled: Indy, Detroit, Seattle, Denver, Foxborough, Las Vegas, and Salt Lake City. These obviously include all Supercross future races. Event ticket refund information can be located on the venue or ticketing website. If you purchase your tickets elsewhere, contact your point of purchase directly. The health and safety of everyone attending and competing in our live events, as well as our touring personnel, is our top priority. We will continue to monitor the situation, and we value you as a fan and appreciate your patience and understanding during this unprecedented time. So, Dave, first off, let me thank you for taking the time to join Ricky and I right now for the show today. I mean, I can't even imagine how much work and planning has been going on over the past few weeks. So it's unprecedented times with a lot of tough decisions. How are you holding up?
We're doing good. I mean, we're all in this together, right? Not only this industry, but the world. So we're working through it. We're making the best of a difficult situation. And as you said, I think that's been the word on everyone's lips the last few weeks, is unprecedented. So none of us have ever dealt with this. So we're all working through it together.
Yeah, and it's crazy because being a live events company, like your business, the company's business, whether it's the ice shows and all of the entertainment that Feld does, is all about bringing thousands, tens of thousands of people and putting them in one place for 2 or 3 hours, which is the exact opposite of what the health experts are recommending. So, man.
You're right. That's exactly what it is. I mean, that's our business, is public gatherings. So when you're not able to do that, it makes it tough.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine, and there's so much speculation, and I think Jeff and I were talking a little bit earlier, Dave, and as you know, it's like you don't know what's happening from 30 minutes from now. Something will come out on social media from the government. You're like, okay, this is what we're doing now. So there's so much uncertainty. And I think that's the hard part, I think, for everybody. Let's just take racing aside. Let's just talk, like you said, we're in this together, especially from just a personal side, family side. Take racing and sport out of it. The uncertainty, I think sometimes that they'd say, all right, stay locked up for 2 more weeks, and then we're going to turn everybody loose. I think people are like, okay, I know how to manage my expectations. I know what I need to do. This is what I can do during this time because I know I'm going to be able to get back to business in 2 weeks or whatever it might be whenever they do it. But you know what I'm saying? The uncertainty from your angle has got to be, I can't imagine how challenging that is, right? Because no one knows what the heck is happening or, like when the end is near, if you will.
You're right, Ricky. That's been the biggest thing, and I think it's the biggest thing for everyone, everyone involved in this around the world. But right now, we're just planning for multiple situations. We came in this morning, and we're working on different budget scenarios depending on where we end up racing, what dates we end up racing on. So that's the biggest challenge of all this in my mind is just the uncertainty of not knowing when things will get back to normal, if not normal, at least a semblance of normalcy. So we're working on 3 or 4 different scenarios right now, trying to plan for the best possible scenario and getting these 7 rounds in and finishing the 2020 season.
Yeah, so that's been the question from all of my friends and fans and people like, what's happening? When is Supercross going to finish? Are they going to finish the races, or are they just going to call it? So I guess the first question is, what's the goals to finish the season?
The goal is to finish the season, race rounds 11 through 17 before the end of 2020. So that is our goal. That's what we're planning for, and that's what we're working toward. So we got with all the OEMs and all the teams, it was unanimous. Everyone wanted to finish the Supercross season. Everyone wanted to finish these next 7 rounds. And so that's what we're working toward. I didn't really know what we were going to hear when we got on the phone with all the teams. I didn't know if we were going to hear, let's just call it. Let's do all 7. Let's do 5 of the 7. Wasn't sure what I would expect or what I was expecting to hear, but unanimously, I didn't hear anyone say, let's just call it now. Let's just do 2 rounds. Let's do 3 rounds. Everyone thought it was important, as did we as the stewards of the sport, to finish those 7 rounds and make it a complete 17-round championship.
Well, that was one of the questions that I had is how often, do you talk to the OEMs or the teams, and what was their how much motivation did they had and how deep were they willing to go into the year? Let's just, you see so much speculation on social media and people saying, I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that. Well, we got the man on with us today. And that was like, how often do you talk to these guys, and are they willing to go into, September, October to get these races in so they can win a Supercross championship? Are they're that motivated?
Yeah, and I think it's such a fluid situation. Like, we're all living through this together.
Yeah, totally.
So as of 2 Thursdays ago, we were in Indianapolis, and Sean Brennan, our PR manager, had riders in studio. So we're promoting the race in Indy. We're ready to go. Wow. And about 10:30, we had to call Sean and say, hey, hang on a second, maybe we pump the brakes, head back to the stadium. By 12:30, we had made the decision we were going to race without fans. And we were continuing to talk to the local government there as well as the venue. And that quickly changed, and about 5 p.m. Thursday is when we made the call that Indy would be canceled. So during that time, we had a war room set up here at our studios, and we had everyone in it trying to make these decisions as things were changing. Myself and Mike Mewey called all the OEMs and the race teams, and we're keeping them up to date as to what was happening, as far as, first off, not being, we're going to race, but we're going to race without fans, and then ultimately calling the race. And at that point, none of us knew how serious this was going to get. So we were putting plans together to race that next weekend in Detroit, and that's where you got the doubleheaders coming from. You hear people talking about doubleheaders. Well, we were at such an early stage of this and so naive to the fact that we thought we were going to be able to race that next weekend. So that was the way we were going to get round 11 in, was race on Sunday in Detroit. And obviously what has transpired since then has shown us that the world is kind of on hold. But back to your question, Ricky. So we've set up bi-weekly calls with the OEMs and the teams, and we've been speaking to them every Monday and every Thursday. And it's evolving as they're learning more and we're learning more. I mean, we first called them and said, hey, we're going to have to cancel these 3 races, because originally we only canceled Indy, Detroit, and Seattle. We had the following rounds open again because we didn't know how serious or widespread this was going to get. So everyone was just kind of waiting to see what happened. So after about our 3rd phone call, I think everyone agreed, let's just pause, sit back, see how this develops, and then make a call from there. And once we realized we're going to have to cancel those next 7 rounds and try to get them in later on in the year, the teams, they were open to it. MX Sports, I've been talking to MX Sports a lot. They tried to move their season back, and they did, to June 13th. So June 13th will be their opening round, in hopes that we could get a larger window to finish those 7 rounds of Supercross before that. But as it stands today, it doesn't appear that that's going to work, simply because of the time frame that everyone's looking at, and the ongoing situation that at the moment we don't see an end to.
Yeah, and the OEs and / race teams seem to be just one of the responsibilities that you have, because there's the event sponsors, which pump tons of money into the sport. You have the television broadcast, you have the fans, and then also your own employees. So that, to me, that's 5 facets of responsibility that you guys are having to juggle. So first off, with the event sponsors, starting with Monster Energy and on the way down, I imagine that there are weekly or calls with them also.
Definitely, we're having so coinciding with those team and OEM calls are partners calls. So our sponsors, we're calling them at least once a week, if not twice a week. But this trickles down throughout the entire industry. So each of the race teams have partners and sponsors that they have responsibility for. So like I said at the top, we're all in this together. Everyone's been extremely patient, understanding that we're, in a new uncharted territory. So we're working through it. But again, that's the goal. The goal is to get these 7 rounds in, to do a 17-round championship, and hopefully
crown some champions.
Exactly, crown some champions. Anaheim on January 9th, we'll all be looking at each other, just extremely happy to be back together and racing again.
Yeah. So Bruce Sundstrom from Monster Energy Kawasaki wasn't ready to just call this thing. He actually voted to keep it going, right?
He did, yeah. And actually, everybody voted to keep it going.
Okay.
He may have joked about calling it, but I don't think anyone wants to win it that way anyway. No. So I think everybody's, like I said, I know everybody's on the same page. We all want to get 7 more rounds in.
So some of the speculation, Dave, that we hear and you guys hear all the time, it's people chiming off, and I don't know where they get their information. But it's sometimes I feel it's so far-fetched about, they're going to be a doubleheader here. So one of my questions were, and you guys are working on this nonstop around the clock, what are some of the options that you guys have thrown out as far as venues go? Have there been certain venues that have come to you guys and say, hey, man, you guys can come here and race here, whatever dates that may be possible? I mean, could you race at an event? Could you hold the venues down for a week and race every other day? Like, has there been, what's the venues look like? What's your plan there?
Yeah, because this fall, if baseball started late, football starts, MLS is going.
It's all over the place. I know, that's the thing, and that's the challenge with this whole situation is not only do we not know when it's going to end, we don't know when Major League Baseball, you just said, Jeff, Major League Baseball has not started. So what is their season going to look like? Are they going to shorten their season and still end in October, or are they going to play the same number of games and go into November maybe? So venues don't know their availability yet. NFL, college football start. There's a handful of venues that don't have a tenant at the moment. However, with the state of the world at the moment, they may be getting a tenant, or someone may need that for a play. So a college football game may not be able to be played at the home stadium, so they're going to go to a venue nearby that doesn't have a tenant.
Yeah,
so
I mean, we
it's
could take the Dome in St. Louis. Well, there might be some sort of concert
Convention
scheduled, or it's
convention.
So, there's a flat show. There's an RV show in St. Louis, in the fall. So that's the other thing that people don't think about is these venues, not only do they play baseball, football, they do conventions, they do concerts, they do RVs, flat shows, they do everything. So, and with the number of events that have had to cancel due to COVID-19, many of those are shifting to the fall. So it just makes it tough to plan right now. So that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to plan for multiple scenarios, and then as soon as we see the light at the end of the tunnel, start jumping on whatever opportunities we can. But really, nothing's off the table at this point.
So and this kind of leads me.
1 second here. Sorry to interrupt, but we can't forget that the Monster Energy Cup was going to be moved to Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, California, with my LA Galaxy play. So that's another event that we're not. I mean, we can talk about the end of the championship, but then you have a one-off event that you have to deal with.
Right, and we don't know what's going to happen with the MLS schedule. So right now, you feel confident that you have a date and a venue locked in. But if the Galaxy come and say, "Hey, we need that date," they're the home tenant. We're probably going to have to slide out of that. So we don't know any of those answers right now, but just going to keep moving forward and watching the situation as closely as possible. And as things fall into place, we'll go from there. The NFL schedule is set to be released April 17th, but we don't even know that could change. So right now it's April 17th. They may decide with all this uncertainty they're going to push it back a bit.
Hey,
so there's a bunch of different variables that we need to consider.
How long? Let's say like an NFL stadium. Let's say they have home game, away game, home game. Could with Supercross, we can bring dirt in and take the dirt out and be in and out in what's the quickest amount of time that your team can work?
We could get in roughly 4 days. So bring the dirt in, build the track, have the event, take the dirt out. That's working around the clock, 24/7.
Have the factories and the teams, are they open, just like you guys are looking at every option? Say you presented something like, hey, we're going to race every other day. Like, have they been open to that idea if push came to shove and this thing gets pushed back further, deeper later into the year and we need to squeeze these races in? Are they willing, and have they got feedback from their athletes that, hey, we can compete every 3 days, we can compete every 4 days, we can compete every 2 days? Like, is that an option? Like, I don't know, man. I think people
option.
Like to know,
I think one of the options that we've gotten the most pushback on are doubleheaders. They don't necessarily want to race back to back, and we don't want that either. Like, that rumor started when, like I said earlier, we were thinking we were going to go to Detroit the next weekend after Indy, and if we're in Detroit, let's get Indy's round in on Sunday. But that was just a quick decision based on the information we had then. So really, everything's been on the table, and everyone's open to most things aside from the back-to-back plays. But we've talked about it. How many days do the athletes need off in between? Most of the factories have decided or have given their input. They need a minimum of 2 days off. But that's going to obviously depend on a lot of the stadium availability and that type of thing too. So it's a lot of different variables that have to fall into place before we'll get the big picture of what's going to happen.
Yeah. Hey, Ricky, did you ever race a doubleheader in Pontiac, or did
no,
that end before
no.
your time? Yeah. So I
Yeah,
raced
it did.
doubleheader in Pontiac. I remember we used to have maybe Seattle and maybe Houston. And I know that this isn't the Supercross in Paris at Bercy. We used to race back to back to back there. Obviously, that's not a championship race. You're going over for a special event, one off, making some cash and all that. But when I raced that event for the first time at the end of 1990, we did Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night off, Saturday night, and Sunday afternoon. And John Savitsky built the tracks, and he would just each day they would kind of switch the track up, and we'd run it one way one time, the other way the next, and it can be done. But
it can be done, bro.
Right?
I don't think I feel pretty confident saying we're not going to run any back-to-back doubleheaders. Okay. I think at a minimum we'll have 2 days in between an event, but I don't think we're going to need to do back-to-back doubleheaders. Now, granted, things could change with as fluid as the situation is, but that's not the goal. So our goal is to do these 7 rounds and give the athletes adequate time in between to rest and recover.
It's really great that you're getting so much support and everyone's being flexible, and working together, especially from the OEM side. I'm sure that the venues will open up as they know more from a timing perspective once things start to ease off, which is hopefully sooner than later. I think for everyone's sanity, that would be the best thing. So I just, the support, it's so good to listen to you and tell everybody and all of our listeners and viewers just, what's going on behind the scenes, and everyone is together, not getting a lot of pushback for the most part. That's comforting, man.
Yeah, no, it's been great. And the OEMs, the teams, the partners, MX Sports, everyone's come together. It's been great. If there's a positive, not that we don't work together typically, but it just emphasizes the fact that, we're all in this together, and we all need to take care of each other and figure it out together as we go. So that's definitely been a positive, and just appreciating Supercross and appreciating being at the races. Like I was telling someone earlier, I'm going to have the biggest grin when we get back to racing. Walk around track walk with a ear-to-ear smile and just appreciate it more, because I think we all realize it's a privilege to do what we do, and just can't wait till we get back there.
Yeah. Hey, what role does the AMA play in this, being the sanctioning body for Supercross?
They've been involved with all the team calls, and they've been, we've been discussing different things with them. Whether we could call it if we needed to initially when we heard the news. And how many events warrants a true championship, just to put that rumor to bed. I mean, we could call it now and be a true championship. Not that we want to, and not that we're going to, but I know people were speculating that 10 rounds wouldn't constitute a championship. But really, they play an integral role, especially on the like for instance, the 250 rule, and the fact that guys are potentially going to point out. And depending on when we finish these 7 rounds, we may have to adjust some of those rules, because they may not know if they're going to point out till later on in the year. And by that time, it may be too late for them to get a 450 ride. So thinking about things like that. And I know Mike Pelletier and Mike Mewey on our side are working. Actually, I think they're on a phone call as we speak, talking about that.
Yeah. So I talked to a title sponsor of a race team earlier, and one of his questions, he says, well, with October 1st being the typical date of new racer contracts, how do you anticipate racers and teams finishing the season in October? If October 1st he's saying, okay, this is when we sign our riders, and that moves into that space, and that goes along with what you're saying about the advancement issues with a 250 rider.
Hmm. Yeah, it's tough, and that's what initially when we started discussing finishing the season later on in the year, that was the first question that was brought up by multiple OEMs. And my answer was, guys, I get it. It's going to be challenging. It's something that we've never done, but we're going to have to figure it out. Like if it takes a 1 month contract extension, that's what it takes.
And and it's going to take some flexibility from the OEMs too. I mean, you're doing everything you guys can to make these races happen, and they are as well. But there needs, in my opinion, I'm probably going to catch heat for this, but they've got to be open to adjust those contracts just a little bit more. I mean, if it goes 15, 20 days over, say we're mid-October, I mean, it's not ideal for anyone. No one wanted to be in this position. So, I mean, what do you think, Jeff? Like, I mean, there has to be some flexibility on their end too. It just can't be from Feld's side, them saying, Feld, you've got to have it done by October 1st because, we got our new rider coming in. I mean, dude, things have to dance just a little bit. Everybody has to play.
Yeah.
I mean,
just quickly. So they have been, Ricky, to your point. So our first few calls, that was the concern. As the situation developed and they realized, the seriousness of it and the fact that it wasn't going to be 1-2 weeks and we're back to work, they've been flexible and they understand they've got to do something. They're working through it just like we are. They've never had to deal with it. It's something new, and they'll get through it, but it's definitely not something they're comfortable with.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to hear. That's good to hear because, definitely. I mean, it's not ideal coming from a guy that used to have a race team for sure, especially if you got a hot shoe coming in there and someone new that you're going to sign, you're excited about it. And if it delays it a couple weeks, definitely you're bumming. However, like Jeff, like you talked about at the opening of the show, we're in unprecedented times and you just got to call audibles and be as flexible as possible. I think from a rider standpoint, and Dave, we talked about this last week, I think now is the time that these guys need to be taking breaks because before you know it, they're going to be racing MX and then finishing the Supercross series hopefully, and then 2021's right around the corner, and there will be no time for breaks. So, now take some time to get your break in and then get back to it, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and that's one of the things that as these phone calls have progressed, that's, come to light as well, because originally, again, not knowing how long this was going to be, thinking it was going to be shorter than what we were experiencing, everyone was worried about it. Hey, we're not going to have any break. And I don't remember which team manager said it, but the last phone call we said, last phone call we had, he said, look, this is the break right now between now and when we go racing again outdoors or whatever it may be. So let your riders take the break now because it's not promised come the fall.
Yeah. It seems like things change daily. Was it just last night, Ricky, that Trump pushed the sort of quarantine lockdown idea to April 1st? No. Yeah. April
30th.
30th. Sorry.
Right.
Sorry. So that's another month out. What's the timeline for being able to announce a schedule? I mean, I know you've got 3, 4, options in the works, but I mean, is it going to be another month? I mean, because that's the thing. The fans watching this, they're just like, tell us when I can book my tickets, No,
I know, Jeff, and that's the part that can be frustrating if you let it get to you. But like we've been talking about, this situation is so fluid, and like you said, the president extended that social distancing order for another 2 weeks. So I don't know. I don't know if the NFL is going to announce their schedule on April 17th as is scheduled, or they're going to bump that back a couple weeks. So we all just have to be patient and wait for some more info to come in, see where these other leagues are going to start, Major League Baseball for one, but wait and see what the NFL schedule holds, and we'll go from there. So in the meantime, unfortunately, we're gonna have to wait, be patient, and just hunker down.
Yeah. Hey, so man, are we wrapped up on the business side, Ricky? Do you feel good about what we've covered?
Yeah. I feel good about it. I feel good about it.
I mean, all three of us have kids. Dave, you've got 2 boys, correct?
Yeah, 2 little boys,
and
8 and 11.
8 and 11. So they're just got. I mean, trying to keep them inside the house has got to be mental. Are they just? They got cabin fever yet?
Oh, they've got cabin fever. I'm lucky enough to have a decent sized yard, so I just put them out there. Tell them not to go in close. Don't get close to any of your friends, but just run around. So
yeah, and with the weather being amazing down there where you're at, right? Like 90-degree days. First part of this thing, we had a lot of rain, and now it's been beautiful, and it's like you just feel like going outside. Yet even in some of the places where they're shutting down mountain bike trails and this and that, you just want to get outside and be around other people. But and so I think that makes it even tougher. And for the kids, that's got to be really difficult. They want to see their friends. They want to, they're finally done playing video games and they want to get outside.
yeah, no, it's been tough, but we're, like you said, we're blessed. We live in Florida. It's been 90 the past week, and it's beautiful. But it's a double-edged sword too, because I happen to live in a neighborhood with a bunch of kids and all their friends, so they go outside and they can see their friend down the street, but they know they can't go down there. So it's a double-edged sword, because I would not want to be in Chicago, locked in the house. But I don't know. We're all just, it's kind of crazy. I think we were talking about it before this interview, Jeff, and this is the new normal, are these Skype looking calls, for whether it's the world news or ESPN or whatever it may be. So it's just a new way of looking at things at the moment. Hopefully it's a temporary way of looking at things. We'll be back to normal quick.
Yeah, Ricky
Awesome.
and I were talking earlier how this is going to change the world in so many ways. Right, Ricky?
Yeah, without a doubt. I think it's going to change it in a positive. I think people are going to learn to be a little bit more flexible. I think it's going to bring everybody together a little bit more, put things in perspective. But nevertheless, man, I personally, Dave, I know you're swamped, and I know you got people coming at you from different angles. I think that our viewers and our listeners are really going to appreciate the insight that you have brought and answered some of the questions that they have. They all need to understand, and hopefully that they will, that it's a moving target. It surely is. And just like Jeff, what you were talking about, when the president moved this lockdown, pushed it back another 2 weeks, that, you just got to think that just pushes everybody else back 2 weeks. But, from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to thank you for coming on. I know people appreciate your insight for sure, and stay safe, my man.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And you guys stay safe and have fun with the families, and we'll get this thing going again. It'll be just a little matter of time, but we'll get it going again, and can't wait to see you both at some stadium somewhere on a racetrack soon.
Yeah, well, and by then we're all going to be doing like 100 push-ups a day, so it's going to be super easy, right?
I know.
We're going to be the most fit people in the world after all this.
That's true. Or the opposite. We'll see.
All right. Well, Dave, man, thanks. Thank you so much for being on. Ricky, as always, appreciate your insight on this too. And we want to thank our listeners from all around the world. Man, I know you guys are jonesing for some Supercross content, and thanks for listening to Real Talk here in this episode with Dave Prater. Obviously, I'd like to thank our sponsors, of course, RockyMountainATVMC.com, Slick Products, Emig Pro Grips, and RC4 handlebars from ODI Grips, and of course our normal host, Fox Racing. So if you get a chance, check out their sites, check out the products that they have, and if you're getting out riding, definitely check them out for some of the stuff that you need. If you like the show, please like it, subscribe, comment if you're on YouTube. And that's all I got, guys. So thanks a bunch. As always, we're going to have our buddy the Andrew McKeague Band. Andrew's down in San Diego on full quarantine playing his guitar. So we look for more content from him. But his track, which always takes us away, is This Old Lie. Thanks for watching, everybody. See ya.
Thanks, guys.